Morning all. All right, so training camps are underway. We're seeing teams on the ice. We're seeing some interesting line combinations. It's worthy of discussion. Yes, a lot of these players will end up on the lines that we're familiar with by the time the season starts, but it's still fun to speculate on who might stay and who might not on whichever line they're currently playing on. So we're starting off with some sad news here. Ryan Ellis, it's unlikely that he's going to play this year, and Chuck Fletcher has said, yes, this could be a career-ending injury. And the reason for it being potentially career-ending is apparently it's a very complicated injury. There's more to it than just one injury. There's a muscle that's been torn. There's a hip injury that's involved as well. And there's multiple abdominal areas that are being affected by the injury. And it's highly unlikely that any kind of a surgery will help. So looking up what he reported as being the injuries, everything was basically, hey, there's extreme pain if you're standing. There's extreme pain if you're trying to move around. So of course, with skating being your fundamental for ice hockey, any kind of skating would just cause Ellis so much pain. It's just, there's no way he'd be able to actually play through it. So it is possible that the career of Ryan Ellis is done. And of course, that might change plans for Philadelphia. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe they knew after last season that there was a chance he wouldn't play again. But it would be too bad because Ellis, a very good defenseman for a long time, one of my favorites in Nashville, and now in Philly, they could really use him on the blue line, but it looks like he will be unavailable to them at least for this season and possibly beyond. Interesting line combinations. So just throwing him up on the board as I've seen them being reported today via Twitter. DeBrincat is playing on the line with Stützle and Giroux. Again, this is through practice, and you've got groups, and you put guys together. DeBrincat, Stützle, and Giroux might very well end up being the plan. That's a solid top line if that's the case. And if Stützle's passing over to DeBrincat and he can have the same kind of chemistry with him that Kane did, we may see DeBrincat put up 45, 50 goals. We'll see. It all depends on how well Ottawa does. A lot of excitement around Ottawa, and the players are admitting it's affecting them too. They're excited as well, but they're trying not to get too ahead of themselves, right? Making the playoffs is the plan. Out of Colorado. So we know that McKinnon and Rantanen are going to be together because that's the case, but Lehkonen on that line as well. So again, if you're playing fantasy, it is possible if you think Lehkonen's going to stay on that line, he's going to get points. So that very well might be a good pickup for you. Some interesting line combinations for the Vancouver Canucks. They're playing in 3 different groups, of course. Group A featured a top line of Pearson, Miller, and Besser. Tanner Pearson was one that I thought was probably going to get traded during the summer. That did not happen. There's still the possibility that he gets traded at some point, but it looks like he's at least going to start the season with the team. Group B, and this is the one that I think is most discussion-worthy. Kuzmenko playing with Pettersson and Mikheyev. Now, Kuzmenko and Mikheyev being on the same line makes a lot of sense to me. Pettersson in the middle, well, that could be fun because all 3 of these players are skilled. Potentially all 3 of these players could score a lot. There's an expectation that Pettersson's going to have a really good year. So putting him on a line with 2 guys who can skate and score could work. So again, we'll see if those lines end up holding up through training camp and then into the preseason. And Group C featured Garland on a line with Horvat and Podkolzin. Not bad. So this is how solid a top 9 the Canucks could put together. And I've seen articles on, well, Höglander, you can't give up on Höglander. I'm not saying to give up on Höglander. I don't know where he fits into this lineup is the problem. So, I mean, these guys, if we are agreeing that, yes, this is the top 9, then that would put Höglander likely on the 4th line, and I don't think that's the best place for him. So, we'll see what ends up happening, but if this was a top 3 lines, that's 3 scoring lines, I would say that's a solid offseason for Alvin in the event that all 3 of these lines are able to score. So, New Jersey talk. Lines at their practices, and again, it was different groups for them. They had Palat with Hughes and Holtz. Love that, absolutely. Palat, of course, would be the veteran of the 3. He was given the number 18 by Mercer. So Mercer, good kid, gives up the number 18 for him. Hughes and Holtz, that's a good couple of guys there. If Hughes can stay healthy and if Holtz can pick up where he left off in the AHL, he should be able to score in the NHL. They had Bratt playing with Hischier and Sharangovich. That's a solid line as well. No complaints there. And Bastian with McLeod and Johnson or Johnson, depending on which way he's pronouncing it this year. Those Swedes, I tell you. But yeah, Bastian, McLeod, and Janssen, that's a solid line as well. It may mean, and I wonder with that too, with McLeod and Bastian not point producers at this stage, does that mean that Janssen, again, if you're looking at it from a fantasy perspective, that Janssen then becomes a not the guy you're picking up? And again, we'll see if these lines hold up. Good news too for Devils fans. Mackenzie Blackwood was asked about his pain he experienced in his heel for most of last season, and says he's pain-free. He's good to go. He's 100%. So that's good news if Blackwood's able to play. And of course, then the backup job, Bernier, who speculation was his career might be over at one point last year, well, he's competing for the backup job along with Vanacek. So there's the possibility that New Jersey could have a crowded crease. And in a good way. Last year, of course, they employed quite a few goaltenders during the regular season. It would be nice to see some stability. So it'll be interesting to see who actually gets that backup job between Vanacek and Bernier, if that's the fight. But yeah, Blackwood, Bernier, Vanacek, we'll see which one of those three ends up being out if that happens. So Montreal news. Suzuki's out 2 weeks with a lower body injury, so that's going to set him back a little bit when it comes to training camp preseason, but he'd be good to go for the start of the regular season. Monahan is not cleared, so this is something I was curious about. When they acquired Sean Monahan, there was a lot of, press stuff where they were showing him with the Montreal jersey, and he was talking about how excited he was to play for Montreal. And I have no reason to think he wouldn't be excited to play for Montreal. Sure, but the question I had is he healthy? Can he play? Going through hip surgery, you do wonder, and so he's not currently cleared. He'll be at practice and doing some of the drills and whatnot, but he's not cleared for full practice and to do everything that they're going to be doing, right? So we'll keep an eye on that situation. And Joel Edmondson is out indefinitely. It's a lower body injury. That's a blow on the blue line, considering he's a veteran presence and an underrated defenseman. They will miss him for however long he is out. Oiler news, Ryan McLeod has signed a one-year contract worth $800,000. So, or $798,000 is how Cap Friendly's reporting it, but $800,000 rounded up. McLeod, decent young forward, a guy that I think has some scoring upside there for the Oilers as well. And so we'll see whether or not he realizes that this season or if it's going to be a year beyond, but I do think the potential is there. So solid signing there, and again at $800,000, there's no risk to that. The Buffalo Sabres yesterday announced that they were giving a multi-year extension to general manager Kevin Adams. So what's interesting with this is that Adams gets a long-term extension, or however long it is. They didn't specify, which is okay. It's a general manager. We don't worry as much about that, right? But they're showing that they have faith in the vision that Adams has for the team. And again, it comes back to other general managers who may not have that same vote of confidence. It is interesting to see how some organizations handle this, comparatively speaking, with others. But I do think Adams has done a good job. I think for the Eichel trade alone, and I think for how he handled it, I think he absolutely deserved that extension. But we'll see what happens with Buffalo this year. Interesting signing news out of the New York Islanders. I thought Corey Schneider was going to retire. Schneider, I remember there was a rumbling at one point last year that Schneider was probably done. 36 years of age, but he has signed a one-year deal to return to the New York Islanders organization for $750,000. So Corey Schneider at age 36, he'll be likely sent down to Bridgeport. I'm pretty sure it's still the Bridgeport Islanders this year. I didn't hear anything about their AHL affiliation changing, so it should be Bridgeport. But yeah, they'll still have Sorokin and Varlamov, obviously. But Schneider's there as a number 3 option. And with the amount of time he spent in the AHL, it's quite possible he's helping out some of the younger kids as they come up too. And yeah, so there you go. Corey Schneider is still contracted to an NHL team. I can't do a career video until he retires. So there we go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Which of these lines are you excited about? Or whichever training camp you're following, whichever beat reporter you're following, or whichever media, which line combination have you seen out of these early training camp combinations that you're excited about? And which one confuses you? Which line combination do you look at and say, well, that's kind of odd, isn't it? Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And yes, hockey is almost here. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.